way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but free people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay? You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations, allows for the construction of these policies and practices and systems and structures that continue to oppress us. This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
You know, Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total black population in California is about 2.6 million, and then of that, the descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know? But I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR roof, don't tune in.
Oh, you sound a little matrixy.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
All right, yeah, sometimes when the music cues up, it takes a while for our voices to render with the music, but that's a lot better, yeah?
Yep.
Wonderful. All right, so this is a special report today. Thanks everyone for coming. In the news, Men the Mass Media Group. And I guess let's get into it. But before we do, we have a couple of things to briefly discuss. So starting on Monday, for those who haven't been able to tune in to the marathon read, we're starting with part 2 of chapter 6, Separate and an Equal Education. There right now should be a playlist available on our channel, so you can actually go back and listen to the previous readings. And then also, if we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Midterm Madness. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the specifically California propositions and candidates here, and some other important state races across the nation. So please tune into that. Hopefully that will be very informative for everybody. We're not going to tell y'all how to vote. We're just going to give you this information. But that's going to be up to you how you decide you want to vote at that particular time and who you want to vote for.
Yeah, but we hope that you vote the best interest of your community. And our community is the Freedmen community. So just keep that in mind as you go to cast your ballots.
Yep. We're gonna see if we can actually invite some people to this midterm madness session, if available, as well as we might be opening up the phone lines too to hear from the community. So we'll see when that time comes. But just wanted to mention that we will be having that show. And so outside of that, I guess let's get into it. In the news, 22 dead, dozens missing after rain-fueled landslide sweeps through Venezuela towns. A landslide fueled by flooding and days of torrential rain swept through a municipality in central Venezuela, leaving at least 22 people dead as it dragged mud, rocks, and trees through neighborhoods, authorities said Sunday. Dozens of people are missing. Residents of Las Tierras in Santos Michelina, an agro-industrial town in Agua State, 54 miles southwest of Caracas, had just seconds to reach safety late Saturday as debris swept down a mountainside onto them. This global warming is no joke.
Yeah, it sounds like a global. That's why it's global, happening everywhere. All right. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson gives a history lesson to counter Alabama's attack on voting rights. And this is her first week in high court. This article was posted to BET on October 5th. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's first week on the Supreme Court has already made headlines due to her masterful understanding and interpretation of the law. The court heard arguments on Merrill versus Milligan, a congressional redistricting map case from Alabama involving packing of Black voters into a single congressional district that dilutes their voting power. This is a practice explicitly prohibited by Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Justice Jackson used the originalist argument, usually a conservative talking point, to prove that Reconstruction amendments were uniquely and precisely focused on race. This contradicts a widely held conservative argument that the Constitution is race neutral. During the exchange with Alabama Solicitor General Edmund LaCour, Jackson reminded the court that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments are explicit in their relation to race. Quote, "When I drilled down to the level of analysis, it became clear to me that the framers themselves adopted the Equal Protection Clause, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment in a race-conscious way," end quote. She explained the 14th Amendment was adopted during this time, quote, "to ensure that people who had been discriminated against, the freedmen, during the Reconstruction period were actually brought to everyone else, were actually brought equal to everyone in society." Let's read that one more time. Quote, "To ensure that people who have been discriminated against, the freedmen, during the Reconstruction period were actually brought equal to everyone else in society," end quote. Jackson continued, quote, "I looked at the report that was submitted by the Joint Committee on Reconstruction, which drafted the 14th Amendment, and the report says that the entire point of the amendment was to secure rights of the freed former slaves," end quote. All right, so sounds like she's making it pretty clear who they were talking about. American freedmen.
Brittany Griner's Russian imprisonment has been worse than she imagined. New details about her detainment revealed. Brittany Griner is struggling in Russian prison. The 8-time WNBA All-Star is facing particularly harsh and bordering on inhumane conditions at the Russian penal colony, where she's been wrongfully detained for 8 months on drug smuggling charges, a new report reveals. Griner shares a small cell with 2 other individuals, both of whom speak English and were also charged with drug-related violations. At first, she was expected to sleep in a bed that was far too small for her 6'9" frame, But in April, visiting journalists, But in April, visiting journalist Ekaterina Kalugina told a Russian prison oversight commission that the American needed a larger bed. Interjection. I didn't even know she was 6'9". Man, she's really tall. She and other incarcerated women are only permitted to shower twice per week. Griner revealed that she was experiencing frequent pain, particularly headaches. Lawyer Alexander Boykov described the penal colony where Griner is currently housed as dilapidated and said the temperature inside fluctuates dramatically depending on the weather. The Phoenix Mercury Great is only allowed outdoors for 1 hour each day, during which she walks laps around a small courtyard, he said. Former New Mexico Governor and UN Ambassador Bill Richardson, Brittany Griner, and Paul Whelan could be home by the end of the year. Richardson is, quote, cautiously optimistic, end quote, the White House and Kremlin can reach a deal for Griner's and Whelan's release in the next several months.
Well, sounds like they have some pretty totalitarian policies out there in Russia. Out here in California, at least, it sounds like Governor Gavin Newsom is trying to ease some of the totalitarian policies that we have in this state. Let's take a look at some of the bills that were signed into law. Jaywalking will no longer be a crime in California under new law. Californians will soon be able to jaywalk without getting ticketed, allowing pedestrians to informally cross streets as long as it's safe to do so. The change comes after Governor Gavin Newsom signed the Freedom to Walk Act on Friday. Assemblymember Bill Ting, who sponsored the bill, the new law, which will go into effect January 1st, 2023, says police officers can only ticket someone jaywalking when there is an immediate danger of a collision. Jaywalking laws have been around since the emergence of cars, and while it is illegal in many states, it's hardly enforced in major cities like New York. Ting said the laws are arbitrarily enforced in California, and up until 2018, pedestrians could be ticketed for crossing a designated crosswalk when the countdown meter began to flash. Ting added that the law prevents potentially escalating police stops. As he says, tickets are disproportionately given to people of color and lower income individuals who cannot afford to pay a ticket. The Assembly member's office said data from the California Racial Identity Profiling Act showed that 2018 through 2020, Black Californians are 4.5 times more likely than white Californians to be stopped by police for jaywalking. Instances involving jaywalking have also resulted in public outrage in the state. In September 2020, protests ensued in Southern California after police in the city of San Clemente fatally shot Kurt Reinhold, a 42-year-old Black man who was homeless, after officers stopped him for jaywalking, the Los Angeles Times reported. Quote, "It should not be a criminal offense to safely cross the street when expensive tickets and unnecessary confrontations with police impact only a certain community. It's time to reconsider how we use our law enforcement resources and whether our jaywalking laws really do protect pedestrians," Ting said in a statement. Plus, we should be encouraging people to get out of their cars and walk for health and environmental reasons. Well, he certainly got that part right about unnecessary confrontations with police needing to be minimized.
California Governor Gavin Newsom calls a special legislative session over soaring gas prices. California Governor Gavin Newsom said Friday he will call a special session of the state legislature in December to pass a new tax on oil companies as punishment for what he calls rank price gouging. Newsom told reporters on Friday that the special session will begin December 5th after all the votes have been counted from the November elections and newly elected lawmakers are sworn in. Gas prices soared across the nation this year because of high inflation, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and ongoing disruptions in the global supply chain. But while gas prices have recovered somewhat nationwide, they have continued to spike in California, hitting an average of $6.39 per gallon on Friday, $2.58 higher than the national average. Facts.
Yeah, something definitely needs to be done about the ever-increasing gas prices out here. But it seems like Governor Gavin Newsom is on a roll. Another bill that was signed into law calls from California prisons will be free under new law signed by Newsom. Prisoners in California have had a hard time staying in touch with their families because of the high price of prison calls, managed by a $1.4 billion per year nationwide industry. But the calls will become free in January under legislation signed by Governor Gavin Newsom. Quote, the ability to call your partner, children, or friends to instantly share your joys or sadness is something most of us take for granted, end quote, said Senator Josh Becker, author of SB 1008, which Newsom approved on Thursday. However, for incarcerated people and their families, simple contact over the phone is tightly restricted, mainly due to outrageous charges imposed to make a phone call. Those costs have been substantial, although state and local officials have sought to reduce them in recent years. The California prison system's 2020 contract with the firm Global Tail Link sets rates for calls from the prisons at 25 cents per minute, well below earlier rates, and the state has recently set additional limits on calls from both prisons and county jails. But Becker said the calls still cost families in California about $68.2 million a year. According to Worth Rises, a prison advocacy nonprofit that co-sponsored SB 1008, inmates can use prison phone calls to make calls, but cannot receive calls. Those receiving inmate calls must agree to pay for them and set up an account with the county or state. Nationwide, according to the Ella Baker Center, 1/3 of all inmate families have gone into debt from the cost of calls and visits.
Two of the largest supermarkets in America are merging. Kroger announced Friday that it plans to buy Albertsons in a nearly $25 billion deal that could change the U.S. retail industry and impact how millions of customers buy their groceries. The deal, which is expected to close in 2024, would combine two of the largest supermarket chains in the country and create one of its largest private-owned employers. The two companies have a combined 710,000 workers, most of them unionized in an industry with low union rates, nearly 5,000 stores, and more than $200 billion in sales. The companies say they reach 85 million households. The retail industry has consolidated in recent years, and merging would give the companies greater scale to fend off competition from Amazon, Walmart, and other retail giants. Traditional supermarkets have been pressured by these companies and others. Discount chains such as Dollar General and Aldi, warehouse clubs like Costco, and online grocers.
Gavin Newsom signs a law to seal criminal records of hundreds of thousands of Californians. Another, new law in California that could potentially help a lot of Black people, since we know that we're the ones most impacted by the prison industrial complex here. California will soon seal conviction and arrest records for certain ex-offenders that maintain a clean record, a move supporters call the most far-reaching reform of its kind in the nation. Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill Thursday night from Senator Maria Elena Durazo, allowing people convicted of a felony to have their records automatically sealed if they complete their sentence and remain conviction-free for at least 4 years. Records of arrests that never resulted in a conviction can be sealed as well. The law will give individuals the tools to turn the page on their past and an opportunity to build a new, better life while providing an economic boost in California, including an estimated $20 billion yearly increase to the state's gross domestic product that it currently misses out on from widespread unemployment and underemployment of those with conviction history, Durazo said in a statement Thursday night. The law will take effect July 1st and excludes registered sex offenders and people convicted of serious or violent crimes. Those individuals may still petition to have their records sealed. Currently, California is one of 6 states to offer ex-felons ways to seal their records. The 4-year implementation is the most progressive in the nation for automatic relief. Under the new law, law enforcement agencies and schools would have access to the sealed records, but most employers and landlords would not be able to view the records. Now, I wonder how that's going to impact people who, the Second Amendment are trying to get guns. It doesn't say if gun vendors will be able to view the sealed records or not, because I know that is one of the restrictions from being able to buy a firearm is if you have a felony.
Oh yeah, the background check.
Yeah. So it didn't mention if the records are going to be sealed for that purpose. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Texas Sheriff puts Martha's Vineyard migrants on path to apply for a special visa by declaring them crime victims. The Texas Sheriff has certified that dozens of migrants who have flown from Texas to Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, last month under a new program by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis were crime victims, boosting their eligibility for a special visa. Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar said Thursday he had filed certification forms that immigration lawyers say can be used to obtain visas reserved for crime victims or people who witness certain crimes. Based upon the claims of migrants being transported from Bexar County under false pretenses, we are investigating this case as possible unlawful restraint. Salazar said in a statement, "We have submitted documentation through the federal system to ensure the migrants' availability as witnesses during the investigation."
I mean, I don't know how you're a victim of a crime when you're committing a crime by entering the country illegally. Guess they're going to have to figure that out at the high courts. All right. So another bill that Governor Gavin Newsom recently signed into law, a California bill limiting use of rap lyrics in criminal trials. Again, was signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom. Governor Gavin Newsom has signed a landmark bill restricting the use of rap lyrics as evidence in court, making California the first state to now have such a law. Known as the Decriminalizing Artistic Expression Act, AB 2799 makes it harder for prosecutors and others to use creative expression as criminal evidence in courts. In the case of rap, that expression can include lyrics or music videos and even extend to performance art, visual art, poetry, literature, film, and other media. The legislation passed unanimously in the California State Senate and Assembly, and the law will require a court to now consider specified factors when balancing the probative value of that evidence against the substantial danger of undue prejudice. And it looks like a tweet was put out on this in September 30 from the office of the governor of California. California is the first state to ensure creative content like lyrics and music videos can't be used against artists in court without judicial review. Thanks to Join Soar. Looks like us was part of authoring that bill or sponsoring. YG, Killer Mike, Ty Dolla $ign, Tyga Meek Mill, E40, and Too Short were also there for the signing of this legislation. And on a tweet earlier that I just found from May 2022, just to put this into context, someone by the name of Philip Lewis tweeted that several of Young Thug's lyrics appeared to be throughout the indictment. So they're just taking these lyrics and putting them in the legal indictments and using that as evidence against these rappers. And that's something that's going to stop in California due to this new law.
There you go. California approves a desalination plant as historic drought hits water supplies. A couple key points to take notice. California regulators this week approved a $140 million desalination plant that could convert up to 5 million gallons of seawater each day into drinking water. The approval of the plant comes as record temperatures and drought conditions have forced states like California to address a future with dwindling water supplies. The Doheny Ocean Desalination Project in Orange County, Southern California, could be functioning within the next 5 years and supply water for thousands of people in the South Coast Water District. Yeah, this is really big. Hopefully this does come to fruition, because I was listening to a report. It looks like some of the resources from the Colorado, I don't know if it's from the Rockies, so don't quote me, is definitely drying out up there. So yeah, this is perfect timing.
Yeah, I mean, and I want to know why this mechanism, the last name is Moses on this inventor, a black guy, and there was just he was just recently in the news because his machine is able to turn air into water, fresh drinking water. And he was out there in Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, where they're having all those water problems. And I just don't know why that machine has not been produced on the mass market, because it seems like it would also help with these extreme drought situations. So that's also something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Mortgage rates soar as Federal Reserve raises rates. This week, mortgage rates in the United States reached a 16-year high in response to rising interest rates. For the past 15 years, American home buyers have enjoyed relatively low mortgage rates, according to Freddie Mac. 30-year fixed mortgages rates have been remarkably low these past 2 years, specifically floating between 2.5 and 3.5 between 2020 and 2022. But in the past few weeks, mortgage rates have shot straight up and are sitting today at 6.7 for the average U.S. home. To put it in perspective, a home buyer a $500,000 home is paying almost $900 more a month today than they were this same time last year. It is these high prices combined with high interest rates that are a dilemma for many prospective buyers. While many of these people's concerns are warranted, Brian Quigley, a bond portfolio manager at Vanguard, had some reassuring news. Quote, "We are unlikely to experience anything like the collapse in housing following the bursting of the bubble in 2007, end quote, Quigley told ABC News. Things may look bleak in the midst of a recession fear, high inflation, and high interest rates, but the number suggests this is not the Great Recession. And just like every market, what goes up must eventually come down. The good news is that if you can't afford a new a home now, keep your eye on the market, Fairweather said. You might be able to afford it in a couple of months.
Yeah, man, I feel for this generation, especially for freedmen. The quote unquote, I don't like to use the words generation, blah blah blah, but you know, basically the people coming out of high school to around, like, I guess what, 24, 25-ish. You know, and anybody really who's looking to buy a home. But yeah, I mean, you know, statistics already show that Black people are so behind, you know, with this wealth gap, and, you know, employment and even the cost of living is just off the chain. So
yeah, I mean, and you know, the statistics nowadays say that wage earning job is not the path to home ownership. It's generational wealth. So if you don't have that generational wealth, yeah, getting into a home is pretty much impossible. But again, we are putting together proposals to submit to the California Task Force on what some of the proposals in housing could look like for American freedmen, and zero interest is definitely one that I'm going to be pushing.
All right. Let's see. This is I'm trying to get to the. Let's see. All right. Called him at least 17 times that day and 21 the next. Iron Man star Terrence Howard claimed Robert Downey Jr. owes him $100 million. Said he let it go because it's his nature. In 2013, while making an appearance on Watch What Happens Live, Terrence Howard gave further insight into what had happened that led Marvel into taking the controversial step to replace Howard. Initially, the former MCU actor was the highest paid out of everyone involved in the first Iron Man. It was much more than what lead star Robert Downey Jr. was given at that time. According to Howard, Marvel had agreed upon a 3-picture deal. This agreement was struck way ahead of time. The Hustle and Flow star described it in the following manner. We did a 3-picture deal, so that means you did the deal ahead of time. It was going to be a certain amount for the first one, a certain amount for the second, and a certain amount for the third. Allegedly, the studio had gone against what was stated in the contract. When it came to Iron Man 2, Marvel alleged that the second film would do better with or without Howard. Therefore, deviating from what was promised, the actor was only offered 1/8 of the total sum that was contractually agreed upon. It is believed that during the first Iron Man, Howard willingly settled for a meager payment just to make room for Downey, who Marvel was initially reluctant to hire. This is the help that was offered by the Empire star. When it was his turn to ask back for a favor, the biggest name in the MCU franchise, as alleged by Howard, did not come to his rescue. The matter was far from finished. Terrence Howard claimed that he constantly asked for help. In a 2015 interview with Rolling Stone, the audience received a more closer look at what happened. A big, bold claim was made by Terrence Howard, which had some serious implications. He firstly started off the story by saying that he called Robbie many a time while the negotiations were taking place. This is how he recalled the situation. I called Robbie and was like, look, man, leaving messages with his assistants, called him at least 17 times that day, and 21 the next day, and finally left a message saying, look, man, I need the help that I gave you. He went on to say that despite his numerous efforts, the Sherlock Holmes alum did not reach back to him. The former MCU talent emphasized that it was Downey Jr. who then ended up getting the money that Howard was supposed to get.
Wow. So much for any allyship, huh?
Word.
We have no friends. You already know that. All right. Gavin Newsom's wife will testify against Harvey Weinstein at new sex abuse trial. Jennifer Siebel Newsom will provide testimony of assault at purported business meeting. Award-winning documentary filmmaker and actor Jennifer Siebel Newsom, who is married to California Governor Gavin Newsom, is set to testify against disgraced ex-film producer Harvey Weinstein, along with other accusers. The 48-year-old actor had earlier spoken about the sexual assault at the hands of Weinstein in a 2017 op-ed, and will now testify about the incident that took place on the pretext of a business meeting, her attorney said. Like many other women, my client was sexually assaulted by Harvey Weinstein at a purported business meeting that turned out to be a trap, Elizabeth Fegan, an attorney for Ms. Siebel Newsom, told Insider. She intends to testify at his trial in order to seek some measure of justice for survivors and as part of her life's work to improve the lives of women. The 70-year-old movie mogul has gone on a trial in Los Angeles more than 2 years after he was convicted of first-degree sexual crimes and third-degree rape charges. He is serving a 23-year jail term at a New York prison. May he rot in peace.
Boom. Pharmaceutical company linked to Brett Favre may pitch for state welfare funds at quarterback's Mississippi home. NFL Hall of Famer Brett Favre hosted Mississippi officials at his home in January 2019, where an executive for a pharmaceutical company Favre invested in solicited nearly $2 million in state welfare funds, according to pitch materials obtained by CBS News. A document distributed at the January 2, 2019 meeting described plans to secure money from the state's Department of Human Services, which operates Mississippi's welfare program. The pitch was led by Jacob Van Lindingham, then the CEO of pharmaceutical company of Prevacus, which was attempting to develop a concussion drug. The effort to infuse a for-profit business venture with money intended for some of the neediest families in the nation is the latest development in a welfare fraud investigation that has been swirling around the famed quarterback, a Mississippi native, and former state officials. Former federal prosecutor Brad Pigott, who investigated the transactions for the state, told CBS News the agreement between the state and Prevacus was an egregious betrayal both of the poor and of the law. The meeting at Favre's Mississippi home was not his first interaction with state officials about the company. 1 month earlier, text messages first reported by Mississippi Today appear to show the former NFL quarterback personally lobbied then Governor Phil Bryant. The news site reported that Van Lindingham offered Bryant stock in the company, and Bryant agreed to accept it after leaving office. Eric Hirschman, an attorney for Favre, said in an interview with CBS News that the state officials, including Bryant, never told Favre that the money Bryant would provide would be derived from welfare funds. Hirschman pointed out that Bryant had previously served as Mississippi State Auditor, leading the department that oversees public funds. Favre said in a statement to the CBS News that I have been unjustly smeared in the media, I have done nothing wrong, and it is past time to set the record straight.
Favre, the welfare king.
Yep.
Where do you think the money was coming from? Anyways, Social Security recipients get 8.7 cost of living increase, the highest in more than 40 years. Social Security recipients will receive an annual cost of living adjustment of 8.7% next year, the largest increase since 1981, the Social Security Administration announced Thursday. The spike will boost retirees' monthly payments by $146 to an estimated average of $1,827 for 2023. The hefty increase, which follows a 5.9 adjustment for this year, is aimed at helping Social Security's roughly up to 70 million recipients contend with the high inflation that has been plaguing the U.S. since last year. Well, that's definitely a good thing for our elders on fixed incomes.
Yeah, I mean,
The least they can do, $146, and they acting like that's a lot of money.
Speaking of money, stimulus checks. 10 million people are still eligible for payments, but have 1 month to claim them. 3 rounds of stimulus checks during the pandemic helped millions of Americans weather the crisis, but there may still be as many as 10 million people who haven't claimed their money, according to a new government report. About 165 million Americans were eligible for the stimulus checks, which totaled $931 billion in direct payments. The Government Accountability Office said in a Tuesday report, the IRS relied on tax returns to determine eligibility and send payments to individuals and families, relying on bank account information, or home addresses for mailing the checks. But millions of Americans, such as some very low-income adults and some seniors who only receive Social Security benefits, aren't required to file taxes. That made them difficult for the IRS to reach when it was distributing stimulus checks. And so they may have missed out on receiving all of their payments, the GAO said. On Thursday, the IRS said it will send letters to more than 9 million families who are potentially eligible for benefits, including stimulus payments or child tax credits, but didn't claim them by filing a 2021 tax return. It noted that it will keep its free file program open through November 17th. Free file allows people with incomes of $73,000 or less to file a return online for free through third-party file taxpayers such as Tax Act or 1040 Now. There is some good news. There's still time for people who missed out on their stimulus checks to claim them, the report noted. Individuals with little or no income and therefore not required to pay taxes have until November 15th to complete a simplified tax return to get their payments, the GAO said. There's also still time for people to claim the expanded child tax credit, which was provided last year to eligible families. That credit provided as much as $3,600 to families with children under 17, but parents who didn't receive the payments last year have only until November 15th to claim them. To claim a missing stimulus payment, people should go to the IRS website for Economic Impact Payments, the official name for the program, and follow the instructions there. You'll have to file a simplified tax return to receive the money.
A jury recommends life in prison for Parkland shooter Nicholas Cruz. A jury has recommended that the shooter who killed 17 people at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, be sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. Nicholas Cruz, 24, pleaded guilty last year to 17 charges of premeditated murder and 17 counts of attempted murder. The question facing jurors now is whether Cruz would spend the rest of his life in prison or be sentenced to death. Unanimity among the 12 juries is required. Unanimity among the 12 jurors is required to impose the death penalty. The jury unanimously found that there have been aggravating factors in the murders Cruz committed, but at least one juror concluded that for each murder, the aggravating factor did not outweigh mitigating circumstances in this case, and thus the death penalty is not merited, resulting in the recommendation of a life sentence. The judge in the case, Circuit Judge Elizabeth Schur, cannot overrule the jury's decision. Florida abolished death sentences by judicial override in 2016. Speaking to the press after the verdict, family members of the victims expressed anger and frustration, and prosecutors had pushed for the death penalty sentence.
Unanimity. Learn something new every day.
Unanimity.
I think Friedman needs some unanimity. All right, student loan forgiveness applications now open through beta mode website, Biden administration says. The Biden administration has opened the application process for Americans seeking student debt relief in a beta period starting Friday evening, officials told CNN, allowing applicants to begin signing up before the website is formally unveiled after this month. In August, President Joe Biden announced his decision to cancel up to $10,000 in student loan debt for individuals making less than $125,000 a year, or as much as $20,000 for eligible borrowers who were also Pell Grant recipients. Tonight, the Department of Education will begin beta testing the student debt relief website. During the beta testing period, borrowers will be able to submit applications for the Biden-Harris administration student debt relief program, a spokesperson for the Department of Education told CNN exclusively Friday. The website is available at student.aid.gov/debt-relief/application. Anyone who applies for the debt relief in the beta period will receive a confirmation email, but their application will not be processed until the site formally launches, expected at a to-be-announced date before the end of October. Once processing begins, most qualifying borrowers are expected to receive debt relief within weeks. The spokesperson continued, those borrowers will not need to reapply if they submit their application during the beta test, but no applications will be processed until the site officially launches later this month. This testing period will allow the department to monitor site performance through real-world use, test the site ahead of the official application launch, find processes, and uncover any possible bugs prior to the official launch. Borrowers must have federally held student loans to qualify. In addition to federal direct loans used to pay for an undergraduate degree, Federal Plus loans borrowed by graduate students and parents may also be eligible if the borrower meets the income requirements.
Yeah, so get your applications in early, fam. If you have student debt, get in on that beta mode. And whatever you need to do to get that stimulus funding too. All right. Trump blasts House Jan 6 panel in memo, but doesn't respond to subpoena for sworn testimony. Trump's memo replayed a familiar litany of complaints about the Jan 6 inquiry. Key points: Trump again falsely claimed he won the 2020 election despite getting 7 million fewer votes than President Biden. Trump called the House Jan 6 hearing a show trial despite GOP leaders refusing to participate. The committee voted Thursday to subpoena Trump, seeking his sworn testimony. The committee voted Thursday to subpoena Trump for sworn testimony and new documents. He has fought a previous committee subpoena for his administration's documents in the custody of the National Archives and Records Administration and lost at the Supreme Court. In Friday's memo, Trump railed against investigations of Russia interference in the 2016 election, his 2 impeachments while president, and the committee inquiry. Trump continued to argue without evidence that the 2020 election was stolen and that the committee was full of highly partisan political hacks and thugs. No work has been done by the Committee on Election Fraud, Trump wrote. His commentary ignored testimony at the hearing from Trump's own campaign aides, such as campaign manager Bill Stepien and his own administration officials, including former Attorney General Bill Barr, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and former Labor Secretary Eugene Scalia, who testified there were no widespread fraud and he lost the election. Former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson testified Trump said he didn't want to tell people he lost. So, does he need to just get over it?
Man, some people just can't get over it. Like, dude, you lost, man.
Let it go.
I mean, he's lucky, he didn't lose all, even though supposedly he got impeached. from my understanding, and this is allegedly, so I'm putting out this there allegedly, that he's still getting benefits from still being the president.
Yeah, something about it wasn't a full impeachment. I'm not
Yeah.
sure either, but something about it wasn't a full impeachment, which is the reason why there's this talk of him running in 2024. So I don't know what exactly impeachment criteria he was impeached under, but like you said, it sounds like he's still getting benefits and can still run for president. So yeah.
There you go. The future of LA City Council, a roundup of a tumultuous week. Let's see. California Attorney General Rob Banta announced Wednesday that he is launching an independent investigation into LA's redistricting process. Council member Harris Dawson told Knock LA that the meeting would be investigated as a potential Brown Act violation. The Brown Act requires transparency, including a public hearing for any and all city businesses. And just to clarify, that's within California, local municipalities. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It's unclear at this point what impact the recordings will have on the future policy and what the future of city council looks like. We asked Paul Krikorian if the council would revisit policy decisions made while Nuri Martinez, Kevin De Leon, and Gil Cedillo were on council, and he said that the council is responding to the moment right now, but that may be something we want to look at, particularly around redistricting, but perhaps around other issues as well. The recordings hit hard because they laid bare what many Angelenos already assumed about elected officials in Los Angeles, that many of them are driven by empty greed and more interested in extracting resources from the people they represent than in assisting them in their daily lives. The incendiary and racist comments from these powerful political actors clearly reflect their worldviews, which then influence their policies. These policies must be examined closely for years to come. We actually have some audio for the Nuri Martinez meeting, so let's go ahead and play this.
Little yard bag or the Louis Vuitton bag. There's un negrito, like on the side, as lo trae, ¿verdad? You sit next to it, you got that on the side. For MLK, for the parade that Herb used to organize, and we need all the council who wanted to join Herb on the float, because he used to do a whole float to be nice. Bonnie would be like, hey, Nuri, are you going to the MLK? Well, Herb invited me, I'll go. Okay, I'm bringing whatever the kid's name is. I'm like, it's like the oddest thing. It's like black and brown on this float. And then there's this white guy with this little black kid who's misbehaved. Este niño has they're not doing, the kid is bouncing off the effing walls on the float, practically tipping it over. There's nothing you can do to control him. Parece changuito. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm over here trying to parent this kid. I'm like, you can't do that. I said no. And Mike is like, I'm like, you have kid anything. It's me and Karen Bass on the floor trying to check this little kid. Me, Karen Bass, y la esposa de Marquise, Carrie. And we're all looking at each other because we're the three women on the floor like, this kid's gonna tip us over. Because he's literally hanging on the rails.
Well, you can't let them off because the spectators will beat his ass.
Yeah. They're raising him like a little white kid, which I was like, this kid needs a beat down. Like, let me take him around the corner and then I'll bring him back.
Yeah.
¿Sí me entiendes? Ven para acá.
It's a pinch.
Yeah.
But yes, he's the fourth.
So anyways, getting back to redistricting.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure that portion of the full, which is available now on somewhere on the web, you can listen to the full meeting that took place last year. Yeah, I mean, that's deplorable. Like, what is going on? I mean, a lot of people, because I lived in LA for about 15, 18 years. And, even when I was living down there, like, a lot of people are like, yeah, these council people are just terrible.
Yeah, so like you said, at least the Attorney General looks like they're going to be investigating it. So, hopefully any damage that they did during their term can be undone. Or at least we know Nuri Martina has resigned. But let's see what's going on with the other two co-conspirators in this conversation. LA City Council's meeting as two members refused to call to resign over leaked recording. And this is an article from October the 13th, just last week. So they ended up canceling a meeting that was supposed to take place on Friday. Let's see why. Acting LA City Council President Mitch O'Farrell abruptly canceled Friday's meeting because two members have refused widespread calls to step down after they were caught in a leaked recording taking part in a conversation that included racist remarks and disparaging comments about colleagues. O'Farrell made the announcement Thursday on Twitter as civic leaders were transfixed by an evolving scandal involving council members Gil Cedillo and Kevin De Leon. The former president, Nuri Martinez, who resigned a day earlier, the people's business cannot be conducted until we have these next two resignations, the acting president said. The city has been in tumult. I've never heard that one, but tumult. Since the leak of an hour-long conversation between three council members and a local labor leader over the weekend, prompting calls for the resignation from a long list of political leaders, including President Joe Biden. Biden was visiting Los Angeles Thursday and repeated his earlier endorsement of Rep. Karen Bass, who is running for mayor of America's second largest city against billionaire developer Rick Caruso. In the leaked audio, the three can be heard using racist remarks while they discuss redistricting and ways to dilute the power of Black Angelenos. Martinez at one point used a racist slur to describe a Black son of a fellow council member. The Newz has mobilized hundreds of angry protesters who earlier this week swarmed LA City Hall with calls for justice, resulting in one meeting on Tuesday adjourning early. So it looks like they can't even get on with conducting city business until these other two step down, or they won't continue with city business until they step down.
Speaking of people who won't be stepping down anytime soon, Herschel Walker and Warnock down in Georgia. We actually will probably be talking about this in more depth and detail on October 23rd for the midterm madness, but we do have a clip of, if no one has seen it. I personally have not yet seen the debate. I've just been a little busy, but I'll probably eventually check out the debate, but we do have a clip, so let's go run it.
Because he won't answer that about evicting the people from the church. And I told him I'll pay their salary. You're evicting them right now.
We have not evicted. We have not evicted those.
I didn't write the article.
I
didn't write the article. And most of the people out there steal my time.
I'm okay with the discussion if we start talking over each other.
We have not evicted the tenants,
Senator.
And he should take that money and pay it back to the veterans that he exploited while pretending to run a not-for-profit.
See, you can tell that he's not desperate, because if he had read in that thing, he would have saw that I had nothing to do with that. But he is so desperate right now, and he really wants that seat. He's now telling you, I didn't evict anyone. It is written in the paper. I didn't do this. Well, Senator, you did. And it's okay to speak the truth. Do not bear false witness, Senator. Do not bear false witness.
Mr. Walker, to keep this moving, I want to follow up with you. You have been very open.
Who's telling the truth there? Well, yeah, definitely. If you have not seen the debate between Warnock and Walker here, for Georgia Senate debate, go and check that out and see for yourself who you think is victorious, if anyone, in this debate. Speaking of debates, have another one coming up here. Debate set for Gavin Newsom and GOP gubernatorial challenger Brian Dale. What to know? Governor Gavin Newsom and State Senate Brian Dale will go head-to-head later this month in a gubernatorial debate hosted by KQED, the San Francisco radio station, announced on Monday. The debate, scheduled for 1 p.m. on Sunday, October 23rd, is the only confirmed meeting of the two candidates. It will come a little over 2 weeks before Election Day. The station reports that the debate will air live on KQED Public Radio 88.5, along with online video stream. The recorded television broadcast will run at 6 p.m. on KQED 9. The station will make the recordings available to other television and radio stations. So mark your calendars for October the 23rd if you want to see this debate between incumbent Gavin Newsom and challenger Brian Dale.
All right, well, looks like that is in the news for this special report. Once again, please check us out this Monday. Once again, we're going to be continuing with Chapter 6, Separate and Unequal Education, California Reparations Task Report. Marathon read, Monday through Friday, 8:30 p.m. And I just also, once again, still want to give Kim a shout out for helping me out with the read. Really appreciated that break. I'm trying to encourage her to keep continuing to give me a break, but she thinks I'm doing a halfway decent job. So
you're beasting through it. So, but we'll probably give you another little break. We're at the halfway point right now, so maybe next week sometime.
Yeah, that's crazy how much we've actually gone through and read this. That we're almost close to halfway through. This blaring information.
And again, we do have a playlist on ETM Media YouTube page, so you can go and listen to all of these readings at your leisure. But we should all definitely familiarize ourselves with this interim California Reparations Task Force report.
Absolutely. And then once again, Midterm Madness, October the 23rd. Looks like this is going to be the same day that Governor Gavin Newsom is going to be having his debate. So this should probably be a good time and chance to, get some prep. I do actually, I don't know if Chris is watching this, but I do want to see if we can have Chris Lodgson on the platform as well, so we can talk with him, get his opinion, the political goat himself, and hopefully we'll be opening some phone lines because we definitely want to hear from y'all. And we're not just going to be talking about California, we're also going to be talking about some other important state races as well. So for those who aren't actually in California, please come through because we definitely want to hear what's going on out in the state. In your local.
Definitely. And if you have any California favorites or front runners or, just any information, please drop us a line. We want to hear from the community. And we do need to be, weaponizing our vote, as Miss Angela Navarna always says, and voting as a block.
Yep. So on that note, everybody have a wonderful Sunday. We will see you on Monday, 8:30 tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. To get back into the California reparations interim report. On that, love, peace, and reparation.
Happy Sunday, family.
The way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but free people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay? You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations, allows for the construction of these policies and practices and systems and structures that continue to oppress us. This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
You know, Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total black population in California is about 2.6 million, and then of that, the descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know? But I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR roof, don't tune in.